Tonight on CTV News, the controversial cat debate. Are they really the problem when it comes to killing off native birds? Repairs begin on the Edmonds Clock Tower, and principals scorn the government for its deadline on charter school submissions. Welcome to CTV News. First up tonight, a fire broke out at the New Zealand Army's Westmelton Rifle Range in Westmelton this afternoon, injuring a Defence Force worker. The cause of the fire is undetermined and will be subject to an investigation. The fire has covered an area of approximately 1 kilometre by 500 metres and has been moving northeast. 5 helicopters and 16 ground-based appliances and water tankers were fighting the fire. Police evacuated the Aero Club and an IHC residential property on Whedon's Ross Road, along with several houses in the vicinity. A welfare and reconciliation centre has been established at the Westmelton Community Centre. Westmelton resident Linda Hemden was still in her home as the fire was approaching from all directions.
We're right in the middle. There's one behind us and one in front of us. The police, I was out and I came home, and the police, I said to them, I've got to get home because I've got animals, and I had people and kids at my house, and I knew the kids would be freaking out. So the police let me through. I got home here and there was smoke everywhere, but the wind seems to have changed. Seems to be one coming from like Miners Road end and another one coming from Whedon's Ross end. So we're sort of in the middle here, but the wind has changed a bit, so there's not as much smoke, but then it's dragging the one from Miners Road towards us.
So you have been evacuated, but you're just getting your stuff out at the moment?
No, they have evacuated people in Langdale Road, but last time we had fires out here, the police didn't have Scarlet Oak Drive on their map because it's a dirt road, and so nobody evacuated us with that last one either, but nobody's come down to evacuate us yet, but I do know that, friends in that Langdale's Road have been evacuated, which is the street at the end of ours, which is only a short street anyway.
Okay, and you've got sprinklers up outside your house, apparently?
Yes, I have. I've got them watering down my house and all around the paddocks.
Are you going to be evacuating yourself?
Well, I'm ready to go. I've got all the photos and everything, and the car's loaded up, and I've got the animals, but I've got horses and pigs here, and I don't want to come home to roast pork.
Frightening stuff. As at 4 o'clock, the fire had been contained. A total of 60 fire service personnel and 40 police staff have been involved in the response. Police say there have been no reports of damage to houses or buildings. No further evacuations have been required. An international survey has confirmed what experts already knew. Christchurch is the second least affordable city in New Zealand when it comes to housing. Marcus Gibbs has more.
Houses is forcing up the prices of what's left.
Christchurch is found to be severely unaffordable at 6.6 times household earnings, which is way, way above where it should be.
The annual Demographia House Affordability Survey covers cities in 7 countries. Hugh Pavlich co-authored the survey, and his findings confirm what he already knew.
Oh yes, we've known this for years. This has been a very long-standing problem. But when we go back, say 10, 15, 20 years, housing was affordable in Christchurch.
A 5-year housing boom ended in 2007. But during that time, the average house price had risen from $150,000 to $330,000, and the prices didn't return to pre-boom levels.
So as we went into these earthquakes, the construction industry was already on its knees. We're in a very weak position, but by rights we should have had at least 10,000 new affordable homes out on the fringes of Christchurch by now, since the 4th of September 2010 earthquakes.
The survey's highlighted the problem, but Hugh doesn't believe it will be going away unless there's a change. In the meantime, homeowners leaving their red-zoned houses are having to fight for what homes are left.
What's left, and that's it. And where on earth is the new stock, the new affordable stock that people can afford to buy, say at $200,000? We shouldn't be paying any more out in the fringes. About $50,000 for a section and $150,000 for a house, $200,000 all up. That's for starter homes. And where are they? That's what Minister Brownlee really needs to be pressed on. It's actually a disgrace.
Because the increased demand is forcing up prices, making more land available would effectively bring the prices back down. Finance Minister Bill English wrote the introduction for the survey, and he mentioned what needs to be changed.
That they're going to be focusing on 4 key things: land supply, infrastructure financing, process and construction costs.
Minister English says land has been made artificially scarce by regulation and that locked up land for development. The government's now focused on working with councils to get enough houses onto the market to meet the demand. But if local government doesn't make things easier and get things worse, Minister English says the government may have to step in. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The Post-Primary Teachers Association has launched a campaign encouraging people to make submissions on the Education Amendment Bill that establishes charter schools here in New Zealand. There's criticism that the government has held the public consultation during the school holidays. Charter schools generally have more flexibility than traditional public schools and set their own curriculum and qualifications, teacher pay rates, school day length and school terms. They're accountable for achievement standards and results and aren't operated by the Ministry of Education but rather sponsors such as businesses. Gracie Fee reports.
Submissions on the Education Amendment Bill close tomorrow, as do submissions for charter schools. But like a lot of principals across the country, Belfast Principal Peter Simpson says the time they've been given to produce a well-thought and considered submission has been hindered by other factors beyond their control.
Yes, there needs to be more time to do it.
He's calling for an extension.
Christchurch schools and their communities were very focused to the end of last year on getting their submissions in around the proposed closures and mergers, and then to have this in the holiday time for schools and communities to get their submissions in clearly is ridiculous.
Christchurch East and South Auckland were the two areas mentioned by the government to trial the charter schools. A lot of Christchurch schools, especially two Māori immersion schools, fear the Ministry of Education's planned mergers and closures of 31 Christchurch schools as a step in the right direction for them to implement charter schools.
Christchurch does not need this. We don't need this kind of shake-up. We're physically shaken up anyway.
But the plans that have caused that shake-up haven't been the only stress on the minds of school staff.
You add the pressure and the stress of Novapay and getting all that sorted that schools are dealing and their boards are dealing with. Clearly it's a ridiculous timeframe, and some would say a very cynical move on the part of this government to have fewer and less thought out submissions around charter schools.
He believes charter schools are ill-conceived and about political ideology.
To impose this on Christchurch schools at this time, I think it's unfair and it's just wrong to do this to the school communities and to the children and the parents of Christchurch.
He says international research shows only 17% of charter schools perform better than state schools.
That's a risk not worth taking in areas like Christchurch through the earthquakes and the trauma that we've been through in South Auckland. I just don't believe New Zealand needs charter schools.
Mr Simpson believes the majority of submissions made by tomorrow will be opposed to charter schools.
The discussions that I've had with principals and with teachers and even with friends and families who understand what a charter school is, they don't believe this is a good move for Christchurch at this time at all.
One fear principals have is charter schools in New Zealand are not accountable to the Official Information Act for the first 2 years.
That means they can cherry pick their kids. It means that they don't have to have registered teachers. They're not accountable to any community for 2 years. Those kind of aspects around charter schools, I believe, and I think the education sector believe, will not be of any benefit to children's learning.
Gracie Fee, CTV News.
The Harewood Community Centre has been closed after it was found to be just 6% of the building code. The minimum standard is 33%. Christchurch City Council closed the Harewood Road building today, which is used by the Harewood Play Centre and a number of community groups. A potential critical structural weakness was found following a detailed engineering evaluation. General Manager Community Services Michael Aiken says the council carried out assessments on the building following the earthquakes and it was deemed to be fit to occupy. Cats are naturally born killers, but does that mean they should be gradually eradicated? Gracie Fee reports.
These cute, cuddly cats have suddenly become controversial. Economist and conservation advocate Gareth Morgan has called for cats to be eradicated to help the native bird population flourish.
I think Gareth is putting forward a very extreme view.
The SPCA say cats aren't the problem. The main predator of birds are rodents, especially rats, stoats, weasels and possums.
Yes, a cat may kill a bird, but a rat will clean out a whole nest of eggs and affect the population in a far more adverse way than a cat ever will.
Forest and Bird say domestic cats are killers and kill more birds and other native species than rats and mice. They want cat owners to seriously consider whether they replace their old cats.
They kill lizards, they kill invertebrates and they kill our native birds. And we know that we're losing lots and lots of our native birds that are declining. So we're saying, yes, maybe you could think, like I did, that once your cat passes away, you might think about not getting another cat.
She wants to see stricter controls and regulations around cats like there are dogs.
So we need to start thinking about better controls. Perhaps we need to acknowledge that cats, as far as our native birds and invertebrates are concerned, are pests. They're part of a big problem.
But Hallam says the problem isn't domestic cats, it's wild feral cats. And to target all cats as having a detrimental effect on the bird population is a stretch. A Dunedin study followed the killing habits of 208 cats over a year. 43% of the prey were native animals, of which birds were the biggest group, followed by mice, then lizards. From the study, Forest and Bird estimate domestic cats kill at least more than 1 million native birds a year.
Let's start thinking about this and be aware that your cat kills native birds and invertebrates.
Rather than phasing out cats, the SPCA say there's a much better long-term sustainable answer.
If we want to reduce the feral cat and the unwanted stray cat population, unwanted animals, we need to be desexing our pets. If everyone desexed their pets, we wouldn't have a feral cat problem.
He thinks that's making a difference. Their animal numbers have dropped last year, which he puts down to the desexing message and campaigns.
We don't want to see unwanted animals unloved out in our community or in our forests. We want people to be responsible and make sure that they have a pet and they're not adding to the problem, because cats do breed very prolifically.
Kitten season started a lot later than usual this year, but the SPCA have been extremely busy. They're not having a problem rehoming their cats.
A lot of this due to the emphasis we're putting on our social media, Facebook and our website, and promoting more heavily, and that is making a difference, and we're getting more people becoming aware of the animals we have for adoption through social media.
Kittens and puppies are usually the preference, but this year a lot more adult cats are going to good homes. Forest and Bird say those new owners need to start thinking responsibly about how to manage their cats. Gracie Fee, CTV News.
And after the break, repairs begin on the Edmonds Clock Tower. Welcome back. Time's not up for the Edmonds Clock Tower. It stood on the corner of Madras Street and Oxford Terrace for nearly 84 years and was damaged in the quakes, but now work's underway to repair it.
This clock tower marked time on the bank of the Avon River for more than 80 years, before being broken and twisted in the Canterbury earthquakes. After nearly 2 years of waiting, teams have moved in to bring it back to life.
The guys are really starting to get into it. This is very exciting because, it's one of those heritage buildings and it's significant for the city, so it's great to have it.
The top of the building was removed after cracks formed in the earthquakes, and since then the site's been closed off.
There were 2 horizontal cracks which appeared below the window and above the window, and the one above the window also ended up in being just a slight movement in the midsection. And so what's happened is we needed to remove the top tower and place it on a bed of sand to keep it safe.
They've already removed the surrounding concrete and dug up the existing foundations. New foundations will now have to be put in place, and then work inside the tower can begin.
150mm skin of concrete up the walls, up to the section that's not removed, and then once the new section goes, the top of the tower is placed back on, they'll concrete right up to the top to ensure that it's all reinforced.
Over the past 23 months, tourists and locals have been wondering what was going to happen to the tower.
And the guys who've been working here for the last few days have said people have stopped all the time and said, are you going to demolish this building? So it's good news that we're actually not going to demolish it, we're going to repair it.
The historic building was donated to the city in 1929 by Thomas Edmonds, the founder of Edmonds Baking Powder. It's made of volcanic rock from the Port Hills and stone from Oamaru. The Christchurch City Council believes it's important to repair it, despite a cost of $260,000.
It's a significant site for the city. It's a place where, as citizens and tourists, we would walk past and be able to read the time, and it was a really pleasant place beside the Avon River. And so to see that back in place amongst all this sort of barren land is going to be really exciting and very symbolic moving forward for the city.
For years, the clock tower's had houses around it and walkways filled with people. But when the blueprints realised, it may well be one of the only structures nearby the corner of Oxford Terrace and Madras Street.
Well, this will be very much a part of the green frame that's going to go around the city, and so in a way you could say this is the first step towards that.
Work should be completed by the middle of May, so it won't be long before time's ticking again. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The city's swimming facilities have been extremely busy, with thousands rushing for a dip in a pool. Gracie Fee is more.
The earthquakes wiped out a lot of the city's swimming pools, making those left very busy during Canterbury's heat wave.
We anticipated, planned for, and now we're delivering a great summer. Of course, a great summer means busy swimming pools.
Thousands have taken a dip in the city's swimming facilities over the past few weeks.
Jelly Park's probably been the busiest, and I think the guys were saying last week, the week of the really fine weather, we had almost 18,000 people go.
But it's not just that side of town.
Poleswell's been busy, Belfast, Templeton, they're all doing very well. Pioneer, indoors, but still really brisk. We're very, very pleased. People are coming out, people are having a great time.
Despite the massive demand, the facilities have been able to keep up.
They've been able to cope because we've planned for this. Look, it's no surprises that we don't have as many facilities as we've had, so we've really looked at the resources we need.
Even when it comes to refreshments.
We've got additional lifeguards, we've got made some improvement to our plant, made some repairs, so yeah, we're coping. We've got extra ice cream freezers because we sell out about 4 or 5 times a day.
With children having been off school for almost 2 months, swimming pools have been even more busy than expected.
School holidays helps. We don't have as big a choice as we might like, due to the earthquake, but we've got plenty on offer and people are using it.
And next month isn't expected to ease, with February carrying on the hot summer weather. Pool officials have a way to go until the pool patrons take a dive. But Phil Sowell says with preparation, they'll be able to cope.
February warms up, the climate's more stable. Having said that, we've had a whopper of a January. January has the school holidays, so February will see lots and lots of school groups. The weekends after school will be busy. Paddling pools reopened just before Christmas after being damaged and closed after the quakes, and they've proved just as big of a hit. The Botanic Gardens is going, a box of birds, the whale pool, the Spencer Park. We're glad we've got those up and running. We're sad we haven't got Scarborough open, but the weather's been so good, everyone's paddling in the sea.
Gracie Fee, CTV News.
And after the break, thousands of kites are set to descend on Christchurch. Welcome back. This weekend we'll see thousands of kite enthusiasts pour into the city for the Christchurch City Council annual Kite Day. Here's Marcus Gibbs with a preview.
No matter your age, a sky full of kites makes for a stunning image. This year, Kite Day is returning to Christchurch, and Cantabrians are getting prepared.
It's the biggest kite event in the South Island, certainly, and usually there are hundreds of kites flying and several thousand people coming to watch.
Jim Nichol's been flying kites for years. This is one of his favourites, and a cheapie at just $140.
Well, some of the ones from the Peter Lynn factory would probably cost you more like $5,000 or $6,000. But most people don't buy those, of course. You can buy a pretty decent kite for $30 or $40 upwards.
Don't settle for any kites at ridiculously low prices, as they may not last long. Jim says what can sometimes happen is children will receive a cheap kite from a thrift store, and it will fall to pieces or won't fly properly.
A lot of kids are given kites like that. They can't fly them and they just lose interest.
Is that one of the biggest downers for the sport then, and keeping the buzz alive in the youth?
I think so, but most children don't seem to be very interested in kites these days anyway. They're more interested in things that beep or have screens on them.
They'll be taking their eyes off their cell phones once Peter Lynn sends his kites into the sky. His factory is well known for making the biggest kites in the world.
And they always bring up a selection of their kites and fly them, and they have things like giant octopus, teddy bears, whale. They have a blue whale which is actually life-size. I don't think they'll bring the really big one this time, but they have all sorts of really interesting things.
Jim's hoping this year's Kite Day will inspire more Kiwis to take up the sport.
Quite a few families come down to watch, and some of them bring a kite, and perhaps for some of those it's the only time in the year their kite gets to fly, which is a little bit disappointing. It would be good to see a lot of children on the beach a lot more often flying kites.
If the weather plays up on Sunday, thousands may turn out to watch. Nothing much happened. Kite flying is weather dependent, but luckily Met Service is predicting warm weather on the day.
Do you get some flops in the past where the kites just don't want to go up?
Last year was brilliant. The year before was almost a total washout because we had a very, very strong southwest gale almost, and virtually nothing would fly.
And even if the conditions aren't quite right, the kites will be flying a lot better than they were thousands of years ago when they were first invented.
The materials are stronger, the designs are better, they fly better. All the time they're being improved.
Hundreds of kites of all shapes, sizes and colours will be dancing in the new brightened sky, delighting the thousands who turn out to watch. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Speaking of wind, here's Adam with your local weather.
CTV Weather, brought to you in association with On Time at Cavendish for all of your clock and watch needs, including repairs and the Old Timers Museum.
Kia ora and good evening, Canterbury. A weakening cold front will move over Canterbury tonight and brought some warm northwesterlies today, and will send cooler southerly winds tomorrow. Taking a look now at the weather for your area. Kaikoura, cloudy and cool for your Thursday after 12 overnight with a risk of morning showers. Light southerly winds will push the high to 17 degrees. Mostly cloudy in Hanmer from 12 overnight with light winds and cool temperatures as the high hits 18. Rangiora and Kaiapoi 12 overnight, then light southerlies for North Canterbury as the high reaches 17 with mostly cloudy skies. Christchurch, there may be a few morning showers after 12 overnight, but mostly dry and possibly slightly cloudy for the Garden City with a high of 17 and light southerly breezes. Ashburton, a dull day ahead after 12 overnight for mid-Canterbury with cool temperatures as the high gets to 17 and light winds are expected. And Timaru, again 12 overnight, then cloudy and cool for your Thursday with a risk of morning showers. The high will get to 17 with light southerly winds. In other areas now. Arthur's Pass and Greymouth on 9 overnight with a cloudy morning becoming fine and the highs hitting around 20 degrees. All other areas on 11 overnight and 17 tomorrow with all day cloud expected. Looking ahead for Canterbury. Mostly fine from Friday right through till next Tuesday with a low cloud morning and night and breaking with sunny periods by day. Moderate northeasterlies, fresh and breezy during the afternoons. So a cool day tomorrow, but we all probably need it because it has been quite hot lately. Have a great night and we'll see you tomorrow.
That's your local news. I'm Rob Cope-Williams.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.